So you can't see this, but hopefully you can hear it. Behind every Boise State Public Radio podcast is a team working hard to bring you stories that matter. So if you value podcasts like this one, please support them. Hit donate at boisestatepublicradio.org. Thanks.
More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. Last October, Boise Parks and Recreation asked for feedback about people's experience on the foothills trails. They wanted to know not just what people enjoyed, but also what could be improved. Now, hundreds of people responded to that survey, and the results are in. So joining us today to share what the community had to say is Lisa Duplessis. She is Foothills and Open Space Superintendent with the Parks and Recreation Department for the city of Boise. Lisa, nice to have you back on the show.
Hi, thanks, Gemma. Thanks for having me.
So, Lisa, how many people responded to the survey?
Yeah, we had over 2,600 responses, which is great for us. We love hearing from people every fall, and we were so lucky to have so many responses from our community members.
Were you surprised by that number?
Not really. We've been doing this for quite a few years, and we typically get over 2,500 responses. It's one of the most active surveys that we do in the city, and I think it just shows how passionate people are about the trail system.
So the thing that you do in this survey, too, is you really ask folks not just about, okay, what do you like about it, but what can be improved. So what concerns did trail users have?
Yeah, it's definitely a place where people can, like you said, share what they love, show their appreciation, which we do get a lot of comments about, and it's so nice to hear. But there are issues that people have on the trails as well. Something that we've commonly heard over the last few years and did hear again this year is just issues with dogs, trying to kind of understand how that works, on leash, off leash, picking up after your pets. So that's something that we always typically hear. Often it's, we hear things as well, not just, I wouldn't even say complaints, just things that people want on the trails. Last year, people were really interested in learning about different loops they could do and, popular ways they could get from A to B. And so we added that to our website. This year, I think people were really concerned or wanted to be able to report more about muddy trail conditions. And so is there a way to engage people that are out on the trails and seeing it in real time and getting that information back out to people. So we're working on that as well.
So what about any requests for changes in the trail system? So we've got the concerns, but was there anything specific folks were like, hey, what about making this type of change?
Not this year specifically. In previous years, we have implemented different management strategies, whether it's one-ways or loops going a certain way or downhill bike only on certain days. And so we've asked about that. This year, we didn't ask anything like that and haven't implemented any new strategies and really didn't hear that people were asking for that. I think the one thing that we did hear support for and people always want more of is all-weather trail and accessibility enhancements on our trails. So making it so that everyone can use trails in our system. And also in the muddy weather times and this type of season, having options where people can still get out on the trails and not do any damage.
So you mentioned dogs and people always having questions about that. Can we talk a little bit about the concerns folks had for that? Because I have to say, I mean, I'll be out and sometimes I see a dog on a leash, sometimes I don't see a dog on a leash, and you don't really know, what the rules are because some trails you can have your dog off leash.
Absolutely. So we try to sign all the trails. So hopefully people know, especially with dogs, are paying attention to the signage when you get to a on leash area or off leash, still needing to have your dogs in voice control and within 30 feet of you. But yeah, it's definitely, people love getting their dogs out there and getting them exercise. And I think it's just, we're really working close with animal enforcement this year and really trying to work on education and how we can really get people to be responsible owners because, not only is it dogs out on the trails and running and enjoying, but dogs need to use the bathroom. And so we need people to make sure that they're picking up after their dogs and always having mutt mitts with them, and we try to keep those out on the trails. So it's definitely a big point of education for us. I think the more people, the more dogs that are out on the trails. So just making sure
Uh,
everybody knows the rules and what they need to do out there.
so I also understand there was a question about how people felt about e-bikes on the trails. So how did folks respond to that?
That was actually really interesting. So e-bikes have always been a topic of conversation on our trails. And I think that it was surprising to see that, um, the majority of people were actually not in great support of having e-bikes out on the trails. So, it's a larger issue, and we partner with federal partners as well. And in their eyes, e-bikes are still seen as a motorized device. So there's still going to be some time where we need to figure out if it's something that works on the trails or not, and what their definitions are. But I think it was surprising to see that not everyone's in favor of e-bikes being on the trail.
So let's talk about what people really enjoy about the trail. So what did they say they liked the most?
Yeah, I think people just love the accessibility, the sense of community that they get out there. I think that one thing we really heard was that people really enjoy um, the website, ironically, just kind of being able to get lots of information, having our interactive map updated consistently, and knowing kind of where different loops are, family hikes, what are just some different opportunities they have on the trail. So I think the communication that we're doing with the community has been something they've really appreciated.
How often do people use the trail system, like on average?
Oh gosh, most of our people use it more than once a week. And so that is one of the questions that we ask. But people are out there. We have some people that are out there every single day. They do the same loops. A lot of the neighborhood access points, people walk their dogs or just use it for exercise. So the majority of people are out there more than once a week.
Do you have any specific planned work that's going to be happening on the trails this coming year?
We do have, we just finished up the Crew Loop connection, which is up kind of at the top of Military Reserve. So we finished that and closed that trail for the winter. It was just too soft and too muddy. So that will actually be opening and be a new trail that people can check out this spring. And then we are planning on a purpose-built mountain bike trail that will run kind of in Hulls Gulch up 8th Street and down. We are in the process of trying to get bids for that right now, and we'll have to see if the timing works out to build that this year or maybe next year, but that's on the horizon as well.
And so what did you call that type of trail?
So it's a purpose-built mountain bike trail, so it will be just for mountain bikers. It will not be for hikers.
Oh, that's actually a great idea because I have to say, I mean, I do not mountain bike. It scares me. With that said, it's kind of nice to maybe separate some of those trails sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's something that people have been wanting for quite a few years. It'll be a little bit more technical. It'll be not just kind of your standard straight down mountain bike
Mhm.
trails. So it'll give people a little bit of a different opportunity to experience in the foothills.
So we are in the midst of winter. It is cold. As you said, some of the trails are closed for the winter. But what kind of advice do you have for folks who want to be out on these trails that are open this time of year and making sure that the trails stay healthy?
Yeah, I think and that's a great question. And thank you for asking. And we try to talk about this every winter season and spring season. But, staying off muddy trails, checking the interactive map. There are lots of all-weather trails that are open this time of year and definitely accessible. The Greenbelt is always a great option. We haven't had a lot of weather or precipitation this winter, unfortunately. But I think some's coming this weekend. So yeah, just being aware of the weather, and if you're leaving marks or leaving tracks, to turn back and even let people know that are headed up, hey, it's muddy up ahead, so you may want to turn back. One of the things that we let people know too is that getting out in the morning while it's cold, and it is a little bit not as pleasant to be out, is definitely when the trails are frozen. So if you want to do a trail that gets a little muddy in the afternoon, heading out early makes a big difference.
And before I let you go, Lisa, how important is it for people stay off the trails that are closed?
So important. Honestly, we are a small trail crew that deals with over 210 miles of trails. And so the reason that we close those is because they are susceptible to a lot of damage. And it's just not feasible for us to go out and fix or correct that trail every single spring. We don't have the bandwidth to do that. So for the longevity of those trails and that part of the system, it's really important to stay off of the trails that are closed. And those are signed really well, and people know when they're closed. So just really hoping that everyone in the community can kind of take part and help us keep the trail system vibrant and ready to go.
Well, as always, so good to talk to you about this. We've been speaking with Lisa Duplessis. She is Foothills and Open Space Superintendent with the Parks and Recreation Department for the city of Boise. I'm Gemma Gaudette, and this is Idaho Matters.
If you like podcasts like this, explore more from the Boise State Public Radio podcast family. There you'll find a mix of daily news, Idaho voices, and in-depth series on a wide range of topics. I'm talking wild horses, political scandals, sustainable ranching, and militia groups in a post-January 6th world. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Boise State Public Radio to find what Idaho's NPR station has in store for you.